Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Rusty Nolan Graham. I'm your instructor for this course. I'm also the director of the program that you're in. This week, we'll be looking at Industrial Fire Brigade member qualification and safety. This is actually a modified PowerPoint from Jones and Bartlett's Principles in Practice. You're going to notice it's very similar to a Firefighter 1 and 2 PowerPoint, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to hit a couple of the highlights to let you understand kind of what they see when they first come in the door and they're being explained what their roles can be. Okay, they're going to talk about the education, medical, and physical fitness. They're going to talk about standards and procedures. They're going to talk about the safety precautions you take during training, during emergency responses and emergency incidents. Some of them actually do have their own fire brigade station. And also they talk about, since it's industrial, they're thinking about their insurance. They're going to talk about outside of the workplace. Okay, then this PowerPoint also has a little bit about their PPE. You're going to notice it's similar exactly to ours. Remember, fire member qualification is going to be set up by the organization's mission. They're going to decide what services they're going to provide and what services they're going to pass off to the fire department. They're going to have their own training and supervision, how they're going to set it up, what steps you have to reach for each particular level. They're going to have the individual requirements. Not just anybody can be a member of the Industrial Fire Brigade. Also, sometimes they'll mention that for a certain position in an organization, if you're a nuclear operator, for example, you're going to be a firefighter. They're going to talk about it being a constant learning process. Exactly, they're doing what you're doing today. They're going to be talking about their processes, and it's always going to be working to make themselves better, just like we do. Categories of industrial firefighting. We have the incipient firefighter, which they're going to fight fires that are outside, small fires, okay? We're going to have advanced exterior firefighting. Think of bigger fires, think of liquid fuels, think of the larger incidents, okay? And they have interior structural firefighters. Interior structural firefighters are very close to what we do as municipal firefighters. They also have fire brigade leaders who are trained just like our fire officers. Okay, they have their own requirements. There's NFPA 600, which is standard on industrial fire brigades. They have 1081, which is standard for industrial fire brigade member qualifications. Again, remember, heavily regulated industry, and they're going to be found to have to follow best practices. Okay. Incipient industrial fire brigade. They're going to attack incipient fires only, the smallest fires you can think of. They're going to have an offensive attack guideline and defensive attack guidelines. They're going to be drilled into when they can engage offensively and defensively. Okay. Annual training and drills once a year. These people have other positions that are more important to them in their organization. It's just an add-on. Some of them may receive a little extra money, or it's just required. Okay. Incipient industrial fire brigade doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of skills. They just understand how to correctly communicate in their command structure. They know how to exit an area when it gets too large for them. They know how to throw some ground ladders, the basics of firefighting. They can do a little bit of property conservation. They may actually understand how to put out some of the Class D fires that we don't. They're going to be experts in how to eliminate their emergency scene. They may be doing their own safety surveys. We call them pre-incident plans. They can clean and maintain their own equipment. Sometimes their equipment is specialized just to their field, and we should be using it when we can. Okay. Advanced exterior industrial fire brigade members. They safely fight exterior fires that may or may not include structures. Think of large petroleum tanks. They require training sessions. They're either twice a year or 4 times a year. Okay. They can put on and take off PPE. They're expected to fight fire. So if they're in an area, they need to understand how to use the SCBA. They may be responding on the apparatus. They are going to be able to force entry into a structure. They should not be inside the structure fighting. Okay. They can set up ground ladders safely and correctly. Again, they can attack a passenger vehicle fire. They can do about a lot of the things we can. They can overhaul a fire scene. They can extinguish ignitable liquid fires. They're actually very good at that. They understand where their utilities are. They can cut them off. That's a very useful skill for us. And they can also understand when you can't cut them off. There are some processes where we don't cut off the power supply. Think nuclear facility. We don't cut off the power. They can perform fire safety surveys, and they clean and maintain their own equipment. Sometimes we need to use their equipment. Okay. Interior structural industrial fire brigade members. Think of it, they're trained like us, but they may have additional training for special processes. They may have different chemicals in there that may react differently than what we would think they would. They have required sessions. They are kept up most state to what their processes should be. Okay. Interior structural industrial fire brigade members' abilities. I want you to think about this very quickly. Think of them as firefighters just like us. we need to be in the best physical shape we can be. We need to be able to maintain, we need to understand how to don and doff our PPE. We need to be able to use an SCBA correctly. Again, I'm expecting them to be able to do almost everything that we can. Okay, interior structural industrial fire brigade required abilities again. They still are going to be able to search and do rescues inside their structures. They're going to understand ventilation. They're going to be able to overhaul their own sink. Again, they're going to be able to put out all the different types of fire. They're going to be able to turn off utilities and perform fire safety surveys. Roles within the department. I want you to think of them parallel with us. So fire brigade member, think firefighter or EMT. Driver operator, think engineer or driver. Company officer. Boy, that was a hard one there. Safety officer. The difference is their safety officer is going to understand their policies and procedures, and it's going to know the best way to deal with it. Their training officer will actually understand, again, everything that they have going on there. They're going to make sure that all their paperwork is documented. They usually are getting paid a little extra for this. Incident commanders, usually their most senior member of the fire brigade, somebody that has experience. They're a public information officer because they've got to get their information out correctly. They probably have some type of fire protection engineer on site or available to them. It's going to be able to explain their systems. Now, we'll look at this really quickly. What type of people do they put in their industrial fire brigades? A lot of times they're looking for either people that have firefighting experience. You're looking at your former military, you're looking at your volunteer firefighters, anybody that they can bring in that brings in just a little bit of experience. Okay, they have their own specialized response roles. They do have, some of them have hazardous material technicians, and they're going to be specialized in the material they're working in. They may also have their own technical rescue technician, which has equipment set for their particular organization. I don't personally want to use any of their equipment because I don't trust it. They also may have their own emergency medical service personnel. And remember, they may call them EMS, they may call them their first aid brigade, they can call them anything they want to. And they may be able to advance life support all the way to putting on a Band-Aid. And they will have their own management structure. Okay. Brigade member requirements. They're going to have a certain age that they have to be there. They're going to have so much training before you can go between the different stages. They're not going to put somebody in there that has 2 hours of training into the structural firefighting. They're going to make sure that they've sent them to a doctor. They've done all the medical paperwork on it. They're going to do their physical fitness requirements. And they're going to do their emergency medical care requirements. They're going to know what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. Brigade member safety. I want you to think about this. They are preached safety from day one because they are taught they can replace equipment. They can't replace people. Important to safety in every aspect of the job. They've done an analysis to determine whether or not they want us to do it or they want them to do it. And they'll have a role of their safety personnel. They're going to have, this is what we do, this is what we will not do. Okay. Now, they have pretty much all the same risks as us. As I tell every class I've ever taught, a fire has never asked me, was I getting paid every 2 weeks or if I was doing this just for an attaboy. So they're going to have, they don't even have their own stats, but roughly 100 firefighters are killed every year. We need to kind of remember that. It doesn't matter which area you're in, about 100 die every year. Okay. Cause of brigade member deaths and injuries. Heart attacks, believe it or not. Firefighting is very physical. And again, your heart's going to be working at maximum capacity during these incidents. Think of how many times your heart's beating out of your chest. Vehicle collisions, believe it or not, people get excited. They're driving too fast. They get hurt. And then, of course, you still have common injuries. Accidents happen. Okay. Firefighter injuries and deaths. You're going to look at strains and sprains from improper lifting, moving around the way you shouldn't, soft tissue injuries, getting cut, things of that nature, burns, and smoke and gas inhalation. Again, you're looking at nature of injury, looking at crushing injuries of 5%. That would be very painful. Internal trauma is 24, asphyxiation 7, and sudden cardiac death. Again, that's why we get checked out. And they're going to be. Injury prevention. They're going to be preached as a shared responsibility between them and the management. Personnel safety. They're taught to think of themselves and their crew before anyone else, just like we are. Safety of other team members. They're going to be making sure that if somebody's not doing something safe, they're going to stop it. The safety of everyone present at the emergency scene. They're going to make sure that we're seen as guests. They don't want us hurt because we could still go after them. Okay. Because of a successful injury prevention program, they have standards and procedures. Everything's going to be written down for these people. The personnel is going to be taken care of. Okay. They've got training and equipment. They're looking at those 4 pieces just like we would. Standards and procedures. Again, NFPA 1500, Standard for Fire Department Occupational Safety and Health. They're going to be preached on it. Any other NFPA standard that touches on a piece of equipment they're using, it's going to be discussed. All OSHA standards, because they are employees, they will have to fall under every one of them. And there's various agencies that they'll be responding with. You know, they have SOPs, SOGs that they will not break. They have their incident management system, still like we do. They have their own health and safety committees. They will have their discussion. Personnel, they are taught teamwork, the role of the incident management system. Again, I'm going to stop right here and say, now shall not freelance. They're taught not to freelance. They'll fire them. We should too at the fire department. The role of the safety officer, they're going to understand that safety officer stops anything that they think is not safe. Training, essential for safety, should be ongoing, should be getting better all the time. With new technology, we're able to reach people in different ways and make sure that we have a total understanding of the material. Equipment, they have a wide range of equipment they can use, different types of maintenance, different types of manufacturer recommendations, and they're going to be following their procedures on all of this. Safety and health. I know you are tired of me preaching about this, but I'm going to throughout the class. I was a firefighter that was 325 pounds at one point. And I should not have been on the scene. Biggest thing we need to do, understand, exercise, weight training, cardiovascular workouts. I've had too many friends have heart attacks at this point. Stretching, keep yourself loose. Hydration, drinking water heavily. Okay? Make sure that we're well hydrated, because at any time we could have to go out and work for hours in a very adverse condition. Diet, healthy choices, healthy sizes. Look at your heart disease. What if you have a history of it? What's going on there? You know, illegal drug use, not tolerated either side. They're more likely to get popped for a drug test than we are. Occasional illness and injury. Believe it or not, this is one of the areas that they have to be able to tap out. They don't want to compromise the safety of the team by trying to work while ill or injured. And as professional firefighters, no matter whether you get a check or not, you should be the same way. You should not want to put your team in danger because of it. Employee assistance programs. Again, I want to talk about this for a second for them and for us. We have counseling support and assistance. There's nothing wrong with it. We're under so much stress these days. Physically, financially, emotionally, and substance abuse problems. Our families are torn apart by these things. And the nice thing is, when you go out and you get help, it's confidential. That's what we tell them when we're teaching their classes. There's an employee assistance program. If you're a member of a fire department, you have an employee assistance program. We pay for it through the state association. Safety during training. There is no reason someone should get hurt on the training grounds in their environment, because everything they do is set up. Depending on the organization, their training, physically, the hoses could be stretched for them before they start. But what we have to do is establish good patterns during training. Pay attention to what's in front of us. Understand our assignments. Understand training can be dangerous, but we can't take some things out of it. Again, don't run during training. Don't run during incidents. Take time to think. The importance of proper PPE and teamwork. If we slow down, we know we have our PPE on correctly. I check mine, you check yours, then we check each other. No freelancing. Thou shalt not freelance. If you freelance, you're basically setting your teammates up to die. That's what I tell people. Or you may be accidentally killing one of your coworkers. Notify the instructor fatigued, injured, or must leave training ground. Anytime that you're not up to your best, tap out. That's what they're taught. Okay, safety during emergency response. Do not run to the apparatus. The trash man does not get excited when there's trash out for him to pick up. We should not get excited and run around when there's a fire for us to put out, or if there's a wreck for us to go respond to. Don your PPE quickly and safely. Again, you know when you're supposed to be putting on. You know how long it takes. Fasten your seatbelts. There's no excuse. The number of fire trucks rolling over, so I tell everybody, the number of fire trucks rolling over, there is no excuse not to have your seatbelt on. Driver responsibility, get that apparatus to the scene safely. I'd rather be 20 seconds late and everybody get there safely, compared to having to pay $500,000 to have a fire truck replaced. They know their plant area and their any target hazards. A target hazard is something that is incredibly dangerous. Think of it, they understand where the extra fuel tanks are. They may understand where there's major pits, things that we could get hurt at, okay? Safety and emergency incidents, okay? Wait for instructions and follow directions. That's what they're going to be told clearly. They're not going in and freelancing. They understand that they have a role in the system. They're going to work in teams. They're not going to go in by themselves. Constantly communicate with everyone and make sure they have contact. They're going to enter work and leave together. They're going to check each other's PPE. Not bad rules for us. The fire brigade leader should always know where all the members are located, because you, as the first responding fire company or fire department, you'll need to know where they're at. Okay? Team members should always enter work and leave together. Why do they put it on both slides? Because it needs to be told. They have a 2 in, 2 out rule like we do. Rapid intervention company crews should be set up. And for the industrial side, it's always going to be set up. Accountability systems. There's passport systems, accountability tags, accountability checks, a PAR call. Responsibility of the brigade leader and members. Everybody's responsible for safety. Incident scene hazards. Believe it or not, there's things around you. Why do we have an emergency? Make sure you're paying attention to it. Safely exit the apparatus. I'll tell you a story of how important that is. I was going to an industrial scene one time, opened the door, jumped out, and I landed on a pole. I knocked the air out of myself. They're also going to make sure they secure the road so no one else is coming in behind them. They're going to make sure that the only people coming in behind them is us. Standard hazards they have, traffic, cars coming in and out. Some of the industrial facilities actually protect their own roadways. Downed utility wires, they're going to be looking for that. Bad environment conditions. No offense. Emergencies don't just happen on sunny, shiny days. There's falling debris. We have to make sure that they're correctly protected, just like we are. Smoldering areas of fire. We want to make sure all the fire's out, make sure all the shop objects are taken care of, and make sure there's no CO around for anybody. Using tools and equipment safely. They're going to understand this because they are training and practicing. They're going to wear their protective gear. Remember, they're going to take a moment to do this correctly because this is their job, just like it's our job. They need to be able to perform basic repairs and practice. Basically, repairs realistically nowadays they send out. Electrical safety. Electricity must always be respected. Let's say that one more time together. Electricity must always be respected. There's no reason to get fried. Treating down power lines so they're live. Check for overhead power lines before raising ladders. Turn off any power to any building or object when involved in a fire incident. Okay. Park apparatus outside danger areas during electrical emergencies. Park apparatus outside danger areas every time that you can. It's the reality. Lifting and moving. More firefighters get hurt by lifting and moving improperly. Bend with the knees, lift with your legs, not with your back. Moving and lifting patients is usually when we're in trouble. A lot of times we have a lot of adrenaline. We just keep jerking and we move until we hurt ourselves. Working in adverse weather conditions. Dress appropriately. If it's raining outside, we want to make sure we try to stay dry as long as we can. We're going to be watching our footing on slippery surfaces. We're going to make sure we're dressed for the emergency we're going to. Rehabilitation. Why do we talk about rehab so much with them? Because they're not physically prepared for this, right? No, the reality is everybody needs to understand they're going to have to go to rehab. These are areas away from the scene. They're staffed by EMS personnel. It could be the plant personnel. It could be EMS provided by the local jurisdiction. Everybody in the crew goes together, and they're always informing the IC. Okay? Notice the first word up here is rest. Take a little bit of time. Take some deep breaths. Let your heart and everything start to calm down. Rehydrate. Realize that you have sweated out a lot of fluid. Check the vital signs. Okay? We're going to treat our minor injuries. We're going to look at each other. Hey, are you hurt? Are you hurt? We're going to cool off or warm back up. If you're in a freezing environment, sometimes the rehab might actually be in a vehicle that warms you back up. If it's hot, they may do the same thing too. Rehabilitation, you're going to replace your SCBA cylinders. You're supposed to take one by them and rest. Most of us go 2 to 3 before we rest, but we shouldn't be doing that. You're going to obtain new batteries for anything that needs a new battery. You're going to make adjustments to any tools that are damaged. You're going to discuss your recent completed assignments. This is a great chance for them to debrief and they plan their next work cycle while they're down for a few minutes. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is probably what we're going to be told. Never be afraid or embarrassed to admit you need a break. I'm 42 years old. I've been doing this basically 20 years of my life. 22-year-old Rusty never thought he needed a break. 42-year-old Rusty says he does. The reality is everybody needs to take a chance to rest. You don't need heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Okay, critical incident stress debriefing. We explain to them just like we would explain to you. This is where we discuss our anxieties, our stresses, and anything that's caused us problems from a difficult call or any call. Everyone handles stress differently, and we shouldn't judge each other, because if we do, we're going to make them close down. This is where we're allowed to have our jokes, our talks to keep going. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, we're not Superman, we ask for help. Safety at the fire station. Remember, some of these industrial fire brigade members are going to be assigned to a station. They're going to work very similar to how we work as municipal firefighters. And again, they're basically telling them to use caution when they're around their equipment. Injuries can be devastating, as those that occur in an emergency. An incident or an injury can end your career. Okay. Again, they're preaching that if you're hurt, then you may be done. Safety outside your workplace. Continue to follow safe practices off the job. Make sure that when you're at home, you're doing everything you can to keep yourself safe, such as wearing your seatbelt when you're driving, or make sure you're laddering and doing it correctly. Take precautions to avoid accident or injury. They've put a lot of money into these people. They don't want them hurt. And that sounds harsh, but this is an industry. Okay. Again, you can look right here. This is basically the firefighter assignment we wear all the time. And depending on how they are going to respond, is what all they're going to put on. Here you see everything that you possibly could be wearing. They're going to talk about the standards of PPE, usage limitations, understand what your gear can do. If you're not designed, if you're an exterior firefighter and you try to take that gear interior, you're looking for trouble. It's also going to go over cleaning and maintenance of your gear. Make sure that it's kept clean. There's your tag inside of your jacket, kind of showing you dates of use. Here's the standards for PPE. I'm not going to give you a test on the FP in 1971 or 1981 or 1982. Okay. But I do want you to understand that there are standards that they must meet. And believe it or not, these are standards we must meet too, or we're on the wrong side during an investigation. Again, they're going to talk about your protective coat, trousers, helmet, face shield or with goggles, the hood, the boots, gloves, the SCBA, the pass device. They're hitting all the highlights we would in the PPE class. Again, they're talking about coats, trousers, helmet, fire retardant hood, gloves, boots, SCBA. Boy, this is like a PPE class. Why? Because we're talking about it that way. Now, in every PPE class you ever go to, they're going to talk about oxygen deficiency. We'll hit it real quick with you guys. Normal air is 21% oxygen. 19.5 is considered oxygen deficient. Less than 17% causes disorientation, inability to control muscles, irrational thinking. Anytime you're a compartment fire, you're about under 17%. Think of it this way. The less oxygen, the less sense we make, the more likely we are to die. Okay? Increased temperature. Inhalation of superheated gases burns respiratory tract, can be fatal with one breath. That's why we don't run around without our SCBA on. That's what we would tell them. That's what I'd tell you. Other toxic environments, you can have leak storage containers, bad industrial equipment, chemical reactions, things that didn't mean to mix together. Normal decay of organic materials. Okay? And even CO produced by internal combustion engines. Conditions that require respiratory protection. Anytime that you're inside of a structure that you don't know what's getting ready to happen, better have it on. But the big ones are smoke, inhalation risks. You have oxygen deficient environments, and you have superheated gases. Any one of those can hurt you. Limitations of the equipment, volume of air in the cylinder. There's only so much air in there. There's actual time versus rated time. Again, I hate to say this. The reality is the big guy is burning more oxygen off than the little guy. Okay, I'm using more, but I'm breathing a little faster. Weight and size of the equipment itself, the date of it, the design of the facepiece affects how you're going to be able to move around. Okay, limitation of the user. I've been talking about this a lot. Physical conditioning causes a big issue. The more weight you have, the more area you use. Psychological. A lot of people freak out the first time the facepiece is put on their face. And then closes them. It gives them a sensation they don't understand. And the surrounding environment itself affects you. Preparing for emergency situations. I want you to go ahead. This is one of the last slides they get. It's remain calm, stop, and think. Let's say it together. Remain calm, stop, and think. Take a deep breath. I always told my crew. Take a deep breath. We're going to go in. We're going to come out safely. Panic causes increased air consumption. We all know that. Get excited. Now think of the first time you did something that you hadn't done before, how quick you start breathing. So we need to control our breathing. If your SCBA fails, leave the environment as fast as possible. Use the emergency bypass if your regulator fails. Your regulator should always fail in the open position. If it does not, force it. SCBA inspection and maintenance. It's going to be checked on a regular basis. We check ours every time we go on shift. They check theirs every time they go on shift. They make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. They refill it if it's a little low. And what I tell everybody is fill that thing as full as it'll go. Okay. Replacing cylinders as needed. Now, industrial firefighter performance and knowledge requirements are divided in 4 major areas. We don't need to worry about that. We understand some of the qualifications. They want to be familiar with their SCBA, understand the uses and limitations of SCBA is essential to your safety. What I really want you to get out of this is that a lot of the industrial firefighters know what they're supposed to be doing. I just want to give you a taste of what they're doing. But your job as a municipal firefighter is to find out what's the limitation of your industrial firefighters. Are they trained at the same level you are? They may be trained in certain aspects better. Get to know them. Find out what your department's physically doing when they have an interface with them. When there's an emergency, how are they going to react? Now, a lot of this particular PowerPoint here just shows some of the basics of what they can do and can't do. If you have any specific questions for me, feel free to ask. I've also included the summary of lecture notes for this PowerPoint. I'm not going to ask you a lot of questions from it. I just want to make sure that you're ready to do what you need to. If you have any questions of me, feel free to ask anytime. I'm here for you. Have a great day.